Welcome back after lunch. We're continuing with our alliances and standards discussion, and it's my honor to bring in three very important individuals in this industry, representing standards and open source and collaborating to make things happen. So I would probably have the panelists come up and then we'll have them introduce themselves. So please come on up. Silvia, Hui, and Raúl. Please give them a big round of applause. All right, and I will probably ask questions, but let them talk since they are the experts. But in general, the theme is about open source harmonization with standards. And as I said earlier, it is critical in our industry to make sure that standards and open source are aligned, because otherwise you will have 1,000 implementations of standard and another 1,000 for open source. So this panel is going to tell us how, what, why, when, and where are we heading. So before that, let's just go around and have them introduce themselves, where they work, what they do, and all of the above. So, you want to start?
All right. So, okay, I'm sitting to the left. So, my name is Hui Deng. I'm I'm mostly chief standard engineer from Huawei. But I was working for open source for a very long time in the early stage. And so I have both both standard and open source in the before. So very honored to join here. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, this is working. So my name is Silvia Almagia. I'm Director of Software and Standards at ETSI. I've been with ETSI for the last 13, 14 years, and I've seen lots of changes there. Yeah, then we was mentioning you have multiple hats, but I think hats are fluid nowadays. And thus, in ETSI as well, we're trying to get closer to open source and understanding how open source works. And my team is hosting some collaborative software development activities where we are trying to learn from open source activities, use similar tools, similar languages, similar outcome to get to better collaboration with Open Source Foundation.
It works. Hi there, I'm Raúl. I'm Raúl Álvarez. I'm the Market Development Manager for Europe at the Open Compute Project. The Open Compute Project is a non-profit organization that develops specifications around the data center and the telco industries since 2011. We have more than 450 members and even more volunteers joining our working groups. Some of the members we have here in our audience. My specific job inside of the Open Compute Project is to make sure that OCP is well understood in the European market and it's well adopted in the European market. Thank you.
Okay, so I think before we get started on the formal panel, now that the introductions are out of the way, I thought we might actually start with a little bit of an embarrassment for Hui. We found his old video when he was wearing his third hat as an operator, and we thought we'd play it to see how much you have aged, right? Because you're doing standards work. And can we play the video if we have it?
General doesn't mean we necessarily to develop our own code. So open source in general means we to try to avoid the vendors lock-in to make the possibility an operator can really change something. So we ask not only China Mobile as a telecom operator to be involved to better understand the architecture, software architecture of open source, but we also help our vendors. So we try to work with Ericsson, Huawei, Nokia, and ZTE to let them to be involved with open source as well, and to help them to build their unique value based on open source. Then our operator, we can dive into this open source to build our own service DevOps together with them.
Sorry, I didn't ask for permission, but I just thought it might be good to see yourself there. But the point here is, Operators were pushing when you were an operator. Now you're a vendor. Vendors are pushing. Standard bodies are pushing. So this is, everybody wants it. So the first question is, why is this so important? Why are standards and open source need to work together? And you know, OCP is the largest open hardware foundation, right? ETSI is the largest standardization body, like we all know. And you have both hats on open source and out. So I'll let you answer this question. Why is it important?
Firstly, a little bit, I will not say it's tiered, but very thank you for bring this video a long time ago. So this jumping out of my mind is I do experience not only operator, but also vendor, but also not only standard, but also open source. So this reminds me to think about what happened in the past 10 years. So the most important thing, I think, is not just let open source to implement which part of the specifications, or who is early or who is later one. The most important part is how we really build up the whole ecosystem for this industry. So my really feeling about the success of the Linux Foundation of networking here, but also ETSI MFI in the past 10 years is very important. Is, for example, the 5G, right? So the 5G SBA is not really come from the scratch, from the beginning, from the zero, right? So without standard, ETSI MFI has been get started, and then later, Linux Foundation has built up OPMFI, later with many operators supporting. Then how really could happen the two most important things, not only in the cloud, but also the 5G SBA really happen. So I think this is really important to understand that it's not just open source implement which part of the specification or the standard, that's the who is early, who is later. I repeat this part. So the most important part is we are working together for just one direction. No matter you are on the standard part or you are on the open source part, but we are working on one direction. I think that is a very successful experience, not only for you and for her and even for anybody, right? So looking at the future, I think we should sit together to think about what is next. Probably we can talk about this later, but this is what I really think. I think that we should not just think about small things, right? Who implement which part spec, but more think about the most important things. The whole telecom has changed. Thank you.
Good. No, Silvia?
So, yeah, open source is important because it brings agility, allows you for experimentation, early feedback, fail early, redo. That's important. On the other side, SDO's standards allow for a multi-vendor, multi-project, multi-product ecosystem. They are good at defining architectures, and it's important for interoperability. So I would say, why choose? I mean, both aspects are really, really important. And if we're going on one technological direction, why not get in the best of both worlds? And that's why it's very, very important that open source and standards organizations collaborate. Both are collaborative frameworks. The thing is that they are a bit different. The tools, the languages, the processes might be a bit different. So collaboration might seem a bit complicated at first. But I think little by little we're getting to know each other, to understand how the other works. And at least from my side, what I'm seeing is that ETSI is now paying real attention on how open source works and evolves, and the kind of processes and tools that are used. And some are very, very valuable, and we can adopt and incorporate in what we do. And by doing this and by hosting some collaborative software activities in support of standardization, we hope, I mean, we're giving a platform to standardization for quick prototyping and validation. We're seeing it's kind of a bridge to research as well, and it's helping us to bring innovation into the standards. But I believe it can also be a very valuable vehicle to bring in standards closer to open source communities and to bring in open source communities closer to standards, helping them a little bit to channel the feedback back to standards. Doesn't matter, as you said, who was first. What's important is that we feedback each other and we keep aligned.
No, thank you. And I think just to amplify the point with ETSI, I remember LF Networking was one of the first foundations to sign the MOU with ETSI. I think Director Louis was there at that time. Louis, right. And we, in fact, just renewed the MOU because it expired, right? So you can think about how long we have been working together. So it's quite impressive. Thank you. Go ahead.
So I want to start with a question here, and I think that this is something that we saw in this morning's content. How many API presentations did we saw this morning? And how many API companies are actually interested in, let's say, enabling APIs? Can you raise your hands? Okay, nobody. Anyway, I wanted to bring the attention of how we keep up on the demands of the market, and how we are focusing our clouds into a service based and software-based, open source, of course, and what about the underlying infrastructure for the rest of the market? And this is what OCP is about. This is about creating a community that works in open specifications that are defining the underlying infrastructure of those services. And we are working very close with the Linux Foundation here, and in projects like, for instance, like Sonic, which provides an open source implementation for networking devices. It's all about building the building blocks of the open infrastructure, open telco infrastructure, if you think about it. But more focusing on the hardware level. So you can imagine why collaboration and standardization is very important to us. It has to do with providing an underlying infrastructure which is interoperable with all of the solutions that are in the market, which lays in the bottom of that supply chain and value chain of open networking and open telco solutions.
Awesome. All right. So I think with that kind of background, like I think everybody believes it, and each of the SDOs are also focusing on specific areas. So that's good, you know, when each of the open source projects focus on specific areas. So why don't we go through and give real world examples of standards and open source working in action? Silvia, you want to start, Silvia? Just to change things up a little bit. Yeah.
So you mentioned we have just renewed our MOU for 5 new years. That's great news. And actually, I've been following that MOU. I was the technical contact for that MOU since the last years. And I've been seeing the list of joint initiatives and technical groups that are talking to each other. I've seen this list grow fantastically in the last years. So it probably, I mean, I think it started with NFV, OPNFV, ONAP, open source manual, multi-access edge computing, zero-touch automation. But very recently, we are seeing other initiatives joining this list of common activities. We see Camara, Silva, Nefio. On the LF side, we see the new SDGs on the ETSI side, the new software development groups on the ETSI side, Teraflow SDN, OpenSlice, OpenCapif. And I've been quite happy lately to see that there's also interest in collaborating between OpenSSF and our technical committee for cyber. Some of you might be, I guess all of you should be familiar with the Cyber Resilience Act. This is something that's happening. It's going to impact every single piece of software or hardware that is put on the European market. And ETSI has very recently received a standardization request from EU, together with CEN and CENELEC, to develop harmonized standards in support of the Cyber Resilience Act. This needs to happen in 18 months. It's very, very short time frame. And it's very important that not only the industry is providing input. It's also important that the open source communities and foundations are providing input here. And we're taking all these aspects into account. We have very little time to write these standards, and they need to be right. So we're working together with LF, with OSI, with Eclipse Foundation, with Mozilla Foundation, and we're trying to find the way so that open source, I mean, any company or individual can contribute to these standards, either through direct ETSI membership or through one of these foundations. Okay, so this is important, this is unique, and I would say it's the first time it happens. So I'm quite excited about it, and I think it's going to bring way more closer collaboration in the future.
Raúl?
So yeah, I mean, before jumping here on this panel, I just checked the OCP marketplace, which is where we have our not only set of contributions but products around OCP-based telco. I found that we have more than 130 contributions from different vendors, AT&T, Verizon. We worked in the past with Nokia and Deutsche Telekom as well. Those are great examples of contributions that we have. And we have more than 20 companies that are producing equipment, open telco and open networking equipment. So this says a lot about the impact of OCP and how the market is, or how OCP is affecting the market. But if I had to say, let's say, put a good example and a very recent example, which is something that was announced in end of February this year. We work with a vendor called IP Infusion. So IP Infusion is working with one of the, let's say, trailblazer telco companies in southern Europe, based in Romania, called Digi. So as of February, sorry about that, Digi's infrastructure is based on OCP and open networking standards. And that says a lot of the involvement of those companies and the value that those companies see about OCP. So we are not talking about open standards-based hardware equipment, but we're talking about all of the open source telco layers on top of that equipment. So that's one of the great examples that I can give you based here in Europe, which is a very recent example.
Yeah, and I think the strategy that OCP has is doing a hardware software co-design. So that's really good. So some examples?
Right. So yeah, I think I have very many examples here.
Maybe 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Or 1.
All right. So I make it short. I think Silvia already mentioned many things. For example, OpenStack is the very beginning of all of our work here. Still, I think there are operators doing like Tucker, still using them. And others like OpenMV, also I would evaluate its success because the operator really gathering together to join the Linux Foundation. This is really the beginning. We are here sitting together. I think many old people has been left, but still the value of the OpenMV has been not only the cloud, but also the SBA, SBL, or 5G become the truth. So this is really the value. No matter it's still here or not, but still the value will never disappear. And also, I think I heard this morning the people talking about TNAM or people talking about others. I think they're all success. That's my impression.
Yeah, no, and I think there are numerous solves that have been implemented in projects like ONAP and others, right? So I don't even know how to count them, but we don't. By the way, one thing we need to all accept is when marketing does not push out rah content, that means the projects are stable, they are being adopted, and they're being deployed. Exactly. Right? I think people mistake that for, oh my God, we are like dying. And I think we'll take that message and kind of ask our marketing teams to continue messaging on success stories. But this is good. Last quick round, like a lightning, where do you think we're heading in the next 1 or 2 years? What are the most important things for standards and open source to work together? Hui?
Yeah, so I do have my personal vision. I think the future is definitely will be AI-driven for the technical. So this is not just like large language model. I see the DeepSeek has changed many things because they are open source, right? So for us, for technical people, we need to take this opportunity to think about, because we are not doing the large language model, we are not doing the 3GPP like NDAV or MDAV, but we need to take the two opportunity to consider. One is 6G is going to come. So what's going to happen is, for example, I personally think the agentic AI will be the very critical point of view of the future for the next generation of the mobile communications. And for that directions, for open source, we need to think about how can we build technical agentic AI. So this is one of the things I think not only my personal thinking about that, I hope everybody think about that, can bring your idea to here, and also to invite other people to join, because this is going to sooner or later, because 3GPP already defined in this February about AI agent. This is the definition of the 6G about the terminology of the AI agent, right? So for us, we need to think about similarity to like 5G, SBA, SBI, OPMV, MV. We need to think about similarity over here. We should do similar things here to our future to really change the telecom. So that's my vision. Thank you.
Very good. Silvia?
Yeah, so you stole my answer. No, it's true. 3GPP work on 6G is starting, and there's already space for AI enablers, AI APIs there, which will happen outside. I think open source AI would be fantastic to create trust and, in these technologies. If we leave AI apart, because this answer was taken, I will bring back the Cyber Resilience Act. You mentioned 2 years. We have fantastic window of opportunity now to get true collaboration between open source and standards to get the best possible harmonized standards there.
Excellent.
So my take is that we will see the development of course, and we are seeing this right now, going back to the AI topic. We will see the development of open hardware platforms that will enable AI at the edge, open AI, of course. Those infrastructures will be interoperable between themselves. The value of this kind of infrastructure will be on the services that they are provided on top of that. If we are talking about network-enabled equipment, if we are talking about the networks and so on, of course we will see the shift of AI design or AI-operated networks, where this is actually a challenge at the moment, and we will see dynamic protocols handling those networks. But coming from the open compute side, coming from the infrastructure side, I think that we will see open hardware, interoperable equipment being prevalent in the industry moving forward.
Excellent. So I think we are at time, but that was very insightful. I think we still have some work to do, so I won't declare victory on at least the AI or the CRA part, but CRA, we have, the MOU extends Linux Foundation and ETSI to sort of help the CRA. So security and AI are the next two frontiers. And I'll add a third challenge that I want us to also solve is, while we define standards, like in the true sense, and while when we do the open source, we need to also make sure that we pull in the alliances and associations who are not defining standards, but they are adding a tremendous amount of value on architecture and requirements and use cases and things like that. So it's a holistic combination of all of them. But anyway, thank you for your insights, and great to have you all on today. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.